where 6 and 7-figure CEOs build their purpose-driven legacy businesses through proven branding, marketing, and sales strategies so that they don't have to sacrifice their income and happiness for their mission. Thanks for watching the Life School MasterClass show. Join our Facebook group community of badass mission-driven entrepreneurs, and come back next week same place and time for our upcoming show.
Hello, hello. Happy Friday, badass mission-driven entrepreneurs. We're back together with another show. And boy, am I excited about today's topic. I learned so much from all the interviews and the shows that we do here. And I know from the impact that I hear from you, you do the same. But today's is a special topic that we are speaking to you today with my amazing guest, Melissa Keenan. Will be speaking about how to balance our masculine and feminine energy while we also grow a big business and a business empire that really leaves a legacy behind. Melissa, thank you so much for coming on our show. I'm so excited to have you back, as we've had the amazing pleasure for me to be speaking to your community and really have you share your amazing gifts and knowledge and expertise that I've seen you share with that highly engaged community. I must say, I love it, with our audience today. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Ilana. I've loved our connection.
Beautiful, beautiful. Likewise. So let's start with an introduction. I usually don't like to introduce my guests, not because they don't do amazing work in the world, but I feel like I'm always like taking something away from all the amazing impact that they make. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I serve high-level CEOs and millionairesses to access their feminine energy at a deeper level and expand their experience of intimacy. And by so doing, they increase their impact and success in their businesses. So I've been doing this work around intimacy for 4 years now. And last year I contributed to 2 different books where I hit USA Today bestseller as well as international best-selling author. And so last year was a real big, growth year for me. And I just love serving business women in this space because I have found that there are patterns that are pretty consistent with business women around these topics of masculine, feminine energy, and also our experience of intimacy in our personal relationships.
Well, boy, do we need you in this community, because especially with, trying to figure out how to build an amazing business and also build real, genuine human relationships. A lot of times, I don't think we always understand how to do that, how to balance both things together so that, we are showing in our most authentic self and serve and really build those meaningful relationships. And also on the other end, not feel this urge to, serve people at the highest level with because I feel selling is serving with our programs, with our offers, with the things that we have going on, because obviously we love what we do and we believe in what we do, but sometimes it can come out as, very driven or high powered or, masculine, maybe, in those words. I know I always try to balance and struggle with this at a lot of times as well. I think for me, it's because I have an amazing energy and I know that I can help people. But sometimes, we have to really understand how to balance both things so that we work in harmony. I'd love to know where the origin of this, how did this start about for you? How did you pick up that, you know what, we need to balance both things,
Well, first of all, I think it's important to kind of like call the cat black, call it what it is, that really deep down, I think most business women think this conversation is BS. Like we're like, yeah, but like at the core, where does your money go? It goes towards masculine business strategies. It goes towards like, things that are going to give you greater structure or things that are providing a really specific outcome. I've done studies and research among highly successful mid six-figure and up businesswomen, and so many of them have said like 90 to 100% of their financial investments towards their business are in masculine energy investments. And so, like, we talk about this and it's like we think about it, but like where we feel it prioritizes in our lives, like we kind of think it's BS. We're not really sure. And when it comes to like what we're actually going to invest in, I think that's where we really get to look at and go, oh, how important is this to me? Right. So I think it's important to just like throw that out at the beginning, because I think most people hearing this, there is that little unsettled, like, what is this actually going to do for me if I balance my masculine, feminine energy? Right.
And how can we have both? Because, you know, and I love for you to like dive into more into how to do all of that, right?
Yeah.
Not the practical side, but like sort of like the some of the awareness behind it. Because I think
Yeah.
it's everything that's new, and because we're used to something traditional, you know, when we talk about something new, it's all right. I mean, we don't
Yeah.
always get it, you know, unless we
Yeah.
really raise that awareness, bring that education to the table, and really connect the dots for people that here's how this might be impacting you and how it might be hurting your results and not
Mhm.
helping your results, right?
Mhm.
Because that's always my struggle as well. And I love to call myself I'm gonna start calling myself an intuitional strategist, because that's exactly what I tapped into. It's great to be goal oriented, it's great to have strategy behind, because obviously we don't want to do busy work, we want to be very clear and purposeful, intentional. I love those words, because everything is intentional and purposeful. So that's why I do purpose driven entrepreneurship. But, you know, how to do that while balancing both things, as I know I'll be learning a lot from you and moving forward from our amazing connection that we have started. So I love that you said that. Let's call it
Yeah,
what it
and to
is.
answer
We
your
are
question,
not. Mhm.
you know, you had asked about my experience with it, and my experience was unique. My awareness around masculine, feminine energy came before I started my business. So this is very interesting. I was actually a stay-at-home mom for 9 years, and we have so many misunderstandings around what masculine and feminine energy are. So I think in our culture we think whatever feminine energy is, surely being a stay-at-home mom is the epitome of that. But that's actually false. That's actually based and rooted in what I call cultural femininity. Cultural femininity are those things that like we associate as feminine, but they actually just kind of come from our culture. Like things like getting your nails done, getting Botox, having big boobs, like being the one that vacuums, being the one that makes the meals, being the stay-at-home mom. And a lot of this comes from, you know, very old-fashioned kind of thinking.
Programming. Mhm.
Yeah, doesn't necessarily have to do with masculine, feminine energy. So I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was absolutely living nearly 100% in my masculine energy, but I didn't know a thing about that. I was literally just living in survival, and I was living in such a way that I wanted people to think I was perfect. I was trying to convince myself I was perfect, right? I was the biggest critic of all. But it was like my kids, like they had to be perfectly dressed. They had to, you know, don't get in messes and things like this. My husband, I was always micromanaging and stuff like this. And I was really miserable actually, because I had a really difficult childhood and I hadn't faced those things. I had no idea how else to address the internal discomfort that felt like if I sat still long enough, it might just consume me. So I didn't sit still, you know. And one day, uh, my husband came to me and let me know that he had had a secret addiction our entire marriage. And it's no wonder to me now, hindsight's 2020, that he never felt like he could even tell me that, because of how I approached life. There was no space for us to be imperfect. There was just no space for that.
Mm.
And I didn't talk like this, but everything I did was like that, right? So after a period of time of really like digesting what he had shared with me and like what it meant, how it meant that there had been a lot of lies in our relationship, and even how it affected like our intimacy and like all levels of our relationship, I actually asked him to move out. And it was so painful because I couldn't pretend that we were perfect anymore, because my husband didn't even live in the home. He was sleeping on his dad's couch, and I remember taking my family to church, and he would still come to church with us. And it felt like a big fat lie. People would still say, "Oh, your family's so beautiful, and you guys are so perfect." And I would just be like on the inside, just like dying. And so it was in this space that I got like real determined. Like, I will do whatever it takes to seek after peace in my life. And I had an energy healer friend reach out to me, which I knew nothing about energy healing. And she said, "I'd be happy to help you. I'm doing this thing. It's energy healing." And probably like our third session in, she said, "What I keep seeing is this angel. She's pacing back and forth over you, and she's wringing her hands because she's so worried about you, because you're so out of balance in masculine energy." I was like, "What?" And that was where my journey about understanding this started. Probably the first 2 years, I was just pissed. I was like BS, that's all the weak stuff, all that stuff, like all the feminine stuff is like the stuff that I have worked really hard to not be, to let people know, like, don't mess with me. You'll mess with the wrong person. Like, I'm tough. I don't need anybody. I don't need help. I don't need your support. Like, this whole fortress I had built up in myself. And it took years to begin to like break away at that. That's how my journey began.
Hmm. Wow, you said so many things there, and I love what you said that from the outside, and I could see a lot of my prior self-development self in there as well. And I guess my natural question is this, are certain, people born with more masculine energy than feminine energy, and then throughout life we have to figure out, have our hard knocks and try to figure this out and balance it? Because usually, unfortunately, as human beings, we only act when there's real pain in our lives. So now that we know better, that we can bring this awareness, I think it
Mhm.
really, give people the signs or things to look for, so that you don't wait for that pain to happen to you. You are
Mhm.
constantly working on this, alongside your journey with whatever goals are you trying to
Mhm.
achieve, right? Business or not. So
I
do you
usually see,
personally?
like, I don't think that it's born with. I think because, when you look at a baby, like, they just radiate like a wholeness, a balancedness, right? And there's no judgment and there's no compartmentalization. They just exist, and they're so worthy in just how they exist. But I think pretty quickly we begin to receive conditioning from around us. And I think right now we live in such a time where, because of the patriarchy and misogyny against women, and true oppression against women throughout cultures and throughout generations of our past, we live in such a time where we don't have the same oppression, but we actually do still have the same misogyny. So we feel this constant tug of war as women. It's like, I mean, you feel it from the minute you open your eyes, almost as a little girl. Like, um, what I see for women is like, we're told, okay, here's what it means to be a woman. This is the standard that you have to live up to. And you have two options. You can either just like suck at life and fail your way through and not try to meet this, or you can try really hard, do whatever you have to fit yourself into this box. You're probably going to fail anyway, but at least you won't fail as much. So it's like you can either fail massively or fail just a little, but either way, like, you're always going to be struggling. You're always going to be trying. And that simple fact alone, then you add things like trauma. If you had difficulty in your childhood, you had dangers that cause you to enter into that sort of survival mode space. Um, it's like, it's just a recipe for us being tight and riddled, and in this masculine energy. Then you add that next layer, which is our whole society heralds masculine energy. Like, never as a kid were you told, "I'm so proud of you for the way that you are resting, or the way that you take good self-care," right? "I'm so proud of you for the way that you pause before you jump into decisions," or like, it's just like, "Oh, look at what you did. Look at what you produced. Look at that next achievement." Like, there's not a whole lot of honoring simply for being. And so we don't have a framework even for this.
Hmm. Wow. I love how beautifully you explained that. That makes so much sense. Thank you so much for that awareness right there. I just had that opening there, but wow, that makes sense. And that's how, we're affected because for the longest time I'm like, is there such a thing? But it makes sense that when we are born, we are all human beings. We're uncovered out of all these limitations, programming, taking other people's feedback, stories we're being told, and all of this, and the way that we're molded, so to speak, from our environment to really be able to protect ourselves and the trauma and all of that. So I think that's all like a beautiful connection that you made. So my next question that arises out of that beautiful awareness that you just brought for us is, so how do we know if we have more masculine energy? And I know you mentioned a little bit about it before, like the controlling and the defensiveness and all of that. And how do we know where we are living in feminine energy? So, how do we now distinguish between both?
One key indicator that is very unusual that people don't know is tight shoulders. Tight shoulders is a pretty big sign that you're out of balance in masculine energy. Um, so when you get, it's like you're carrying the weight of the world. The next thing you know, your shoulders are up here, and then a lot of times it radiates into tension, headaches, and things like this. All of that comes from out of balance in masculine energy. Just feeling literally like you are carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Um, the way that I describe masculine and feminine energy is it is really that yin and yang is what we're talking about. And so when you look at, it's important to have masculine energy. Like, really, I believe the goal for me in my life is to be in my divine feminine, which I believe literally is divine, like my God self. And my God self is a beautiful dance between masculine and feminine. It's not to say one is right and one is wrong, or one is good and one is bad. But when you think about masculine, feminine energy, masculine is doing and feminine energy is being. Masculine is achievement oriented, focused, goal driven. Feminine is being in flow and is being curious and open. It's a detachment rather than an attachment, right? Masculine is about strategies and structures, and we need our structures and strategies, right? But then the feminine is where we enter in and we get to flow through those strategies and structures that we've put in place for ourselves, not clinging to them, right? This is some of the examples of masculine and feminine energy, and then we have toxic masculine and toxic feminine. I think so often why, especially in our day and age, we really shun the feminine in us is because we don't want to be in toxic feminine. Toxic feminine is your typical doormat woman. She's the battered wife. She's the one who can't stand up for herself and who lets people walk all over her and who says yes all the time when really she's screaming no inside. And and we feel such a strong, it's literally in our epigenetics to feel a strong, like, I don't want to be that woman, because most of us, our ancestors, were in situations where they didn't even have the choice to stand up for themselves, or if they did, they were severely persecuted for that. And so that's your example of toxic feminine. Men can be in toxic feminine too, right? Again, it's like the pushover. So if a woman shows up really strong masculine in her partnership, then her husband is likely to fall into a more feminine or yin, because it's just a polarity equation, right? If he doesn't, then this is when I work with couples and they fight like crazy all the time, because she's in strong masculine and he's in strong masculine, and they haven't found the magnetism of their polarity. And so, but men, right? If a woman is in her strong masculine, this is where you find a lot of partners where it's like, oh, I'm so irritated. My husband never leads anything. He never plans anything. He doesn't plan our dates. He doesn't, I'm not sure if he even has a backbone. And, you want to pick fights with him just to see if he stands for something. And so this is an example of a man who's in toxic feminine. And
Mhm.
then, you got your toxic masculine, like Trump, I guess, kind of the way that Donald Trump like is oftentimes expressing toxic masculine. I actually love Trump, but just the way that he like the way he is and the way he asserts himself and the way he has to have the last word and like all of that kind of stuff. That's your example of toxic masculine.
Mm. Wow, I learned so much. And this is all stuff that I always talk to my girlfriends, sometimes my clients, sometimes myself. And I see this pattern that we always attract like the polar
Yes.
opposite, and it's so attractive.
Yeah.
I have that in my marriage. So then my next question is sort of, how do we, so I guess we both have to grow, right? Men, women, we both have to grow both sides so
Mhm.
that we can be in beautiful harmony in our
Yeah.
partnership together. Did I get that right?
Yes. And I had to go through this too. Like I said, I was in this like super strong masculine, toxic masculine state for the first probably 10 years of my marriage, maybe 9 or something like that. Um and in my life. And I was also super miserable. Like it was very miserable. But the beautiful thing is if you find yourself in a marriage where your husband tends to be in more of a yin role, as irritating as that is, it's also a sign of like great hope, right? I kind of look at it like if I was married to Trump, it'd be very easy for me to be his polarity of yin. Like no matter how strong I was, I'd probably not out yang him because his yang is so strong. But most of us, again, because we're like, I saw like situation, I don't want a man like that, right? We married someone who was more tender, who was gentle, who shows his heart a little more, and who, is a good father and values driven and doesn't have issues maybe with, cooking every once in a while and helping out around the home. And, he's more open, right? Like we want that, that we also resent him for it. So what that does is okay, Trump's up here on the masculine scale, right? My husband's down here, and I probably like here. What that asks me to do is seek to go here to be able to create that polarity, right? Like it caused me to slow the freak down like massively. And in the beginning, it was really uncomfortable. And I'll see my clients go through this a little bit of like, I don't know this part of me, and the space that I feel, like there's this space all of a sudden, this like stillness that I've created, and I don't know what to do with that. But that's also where our magic lies. So it's this opportunity, like our husbands who are sweet and kind and gentle and tender are actually calling us to awaken this part of ourselves in an even deeper way than someone like Trump would, right?
Mm.
It's actually a gift as much as right now it feels like it's not. What would happen is, like, here's an example. I would think, oh, I know how to solve this situation in, our family or whatever is coming up, right? And then I would want to just like go run and just like fix the whole thing and just do it all myself, right? But when I started to do this, I was like, oh, but actually, I would love if my husband could just solve this. Like, I would love if I could just have some permission to kick my feet up and relax, right? Like, and I would just sit and wait. And sometimes it would take him far longer than it would have taken me. But what would come out of it is he would go and solve the thing. And then I would be like, oh my gosh, you did that in a way that I never would have thought of. All of a sudden, I started seeing things in him to admire. Because that's the other part of this is, it even can cause us to lose our sex drive if we're feeling like our husband has no backbone and he's always the yin to our yang. It
Yeah.
actually can just decrease all those feelings of like adoration, admiration, appreciation, and really that magnetic pull towards our husband. So when we just like kind of chill the freak out sometimes, right, give ourselves the space to like, and this isn't the thing is this conversation makes people so uncomfortable because it's like, well, I'm a strong woman and I am a dominant and right? But do we have to be that every moment of every day of our lives?
We
Like,
made a story out of that. That's where we get our value from. And a lot of
yes,
times it's so unhealthy. And we do it to our kids too. We don't want to let them solve problems. We go
yeah,
and save the world. And then we're like, when they get older, it's like they have no life skills. It's
yes,
because we had that unhealthy need to fill, and we
yeah,
did it through through that. And then we're like, well, my kids don't do this, so they don't want to do that, or my husband doesn't want to do this and doesn't want to do that. Wow, so powerful the way you put it. That is amazing. So then my next question out of that is, now that we're building, communities and we're building followings, and I'm noticing that the more we are now understanding how to be a good human and to serve and to do our own individual work and really, come at things out of love, not out of, competition and all this old traditional ways, especially even the way we build our businesses, you notice people get attracted to you, and this doesn't have a genetic, could be, and in any particular gene, right, female or male, and we get attracted to the energy and the humanity of people, right?
Mhm.
So like, how does this whole thing work? Because I see this happen now everywhere. Like, we can get attracted to really anybody because of that. How do we admire people? Like, what attracts us to one another, and what kind of other, relationships can really birth out of that besides the traditional partnerships that we're used to?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. So I find that when I give myself space to embody my feminine every single day, I give myself that space. And even the way I'm talking, right, the way I'm moving my hands and everything, like I am accessing my masculine energy as I share this interview with you. But I do things every moment of my life to help me like tap back into the feminine, like taking time to pause, taking time to put my hand on my heart when I feel something that's shared, taking time to when I feel that something's true, I say, I like let myself like resonate with things. These are just simple little ways where we tap back into our body. And so I'm doing that all the time. Like when I give myself that space, I find that there is a magnetism. It's like an invitation. I am open, I am receptive, and there's an invitation that if you want to come and be in my space, you feel that warmth and that openness and that receptiveness. It's like a magnet, right? One of my money mentor like coaches at one time had me do this meditation where you pictured a magnetic coil in yourself, and then you pictured like all the opportunities and all the money and everything like coming and magnetizing to this coil inside of you. And I feel like that's what it is. Like when people feel that, and it's not because you're accessing your feminine, it's actually because you're actually accessing the truth of who you really are. Like that's what it really is. And that's what really creates that magnetism. Because I think people's BS meters are getting better. I think that's really what's going on. It's like you can tell when somebody is just like putting stuff out there and they're really not fulfilled in their life, and you're not really sure what they stand for. Like what values like drive them, and what do they stand for? What kind of like character is in the fiber of their being? Like I think our BS meters are getting stronger, and we're like, oh, I want to be around those people, the ones that I can identify their values, and I know what they stand for, and I can feel of their warmth, and I can feel that they've accessed a level of fulfillment that I want, right?
Mm.
So that's what I think. And that's why I think, when you really tapped into this access your energy in this way, um, you do have greater ease and abundance and a radiance in all aspects of your life, in the bedroom and in the boardroom, right? As they say.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I so agree with you. I think it's because as a collective, our consciousness is rising. That's why we're becoming more intuitive. We see, we feel things, our heart, we're allowing our heart to speak for us and all of that. So there's no need for words. A lot of times, even from social media, you just feel that energy, from just like a few words written on a post or a page or even a DM message, right? So
Mhm.
I think that's absolutely what's happening, which is why now we're understanding that even in business building, you want to go in with that very clear purpose of service, because if you go in with the other intention, it's so easily picked up, right? That's why there's so many people have the defense mechanisms up in in many of the things that we do. So I think that's definitely a beautiful way and journey that we're sort of all collectively participating in. And it's only much more beautiful of what's happening. So Melissa, how is it that you actually work with your clients? What does your framework look like? You work with couples, individuals? What does
I
that look like?
primarily work with women, and we work in a one-on-one and group capacity, and I just help support them access their divinity. It looks like kind of going in and identifying like what areas of myself have I not given space at the table, which often is our feminine energy, parts of ourselves, our openness, our receptivity, our rest, our relaxation, our play, our pleasure, our sensuality, all of these things that fall in the feminine energy category. So we explore all of that, and it does involve like a lot of this like inner work around who you're being in your relationships and things, and then how we then access our most deepest, most inner wisdom. Like you said, what'd you say you're going to call yourself? Intuitive strategist?
Purposeful, intuitive. These are the words of that speak to me. Purposeful, intuitive, alignment, heart driven, all of that. Strategist.
So that's it. We help her access that in herself. And so it's really fun because, I work with women who have businesses that I know nothing about their businesses, real estate, law, all kinds of business coaching, things like this. And for the most part, like I know my lane, that's what I know, but they don't hire me for that. They hire me because I believe the wisdom is in them. And so I just help guide them back to that wisdom that's already within them. It's like wherever that self-doubt is, or wherever those places are where you've been like feeling stuck or holding on to the, I don't know, I'm not sure what step next to take, or that sort of thing. And then my favorite thing about all this, and probably the part that we don't give enough merit to, is the sex piece, really, the pleasure and all of this. And I love helping my clients with sex magic, because again, it's like, well, if you're really turned on in your personal relationships, if you're really like alive to your pleasure and to your sensations and all that, of course you're going to be more magnetic in your business. So that's the kind of work I do.
Wow. I love it. Well, thank you so much for everything that you have shared with us so far. I definitely learned from you, and there's definitely a lot more awareness that needs to be brought around this topic. I might have you back where we can go a little bit deeper into these areas, because I think this is such important work that you are doing in the world. And thank you so much for sharing everything with you. And lastly, I'd love to have people join you in your community, where I'm sure that you have lots more amazing content that people can really resonate with, and see if it's going to help them with this particular big area, and help them, grow in their personal life, but also business as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Women Manifesting Intimacy. You can just search that on Facebook. That's the Facebook group. And certainly I've got other things that I'm running as well. You can go check out my website, but that's a easy way in to see what's up.
Everyone go join her group. The engagement in her group is amazing, because obviously that's a testament to the impact of the work that you are doing. It's speaking to your audience, and you have the right people in there for sure. So definitely go join her community. Melissa, thanks so much for being here. We have reached the end of our interview, and I will see you guys next week with another amazing interview and guest. Bye for now.
Thanks,
Have a
Lana.
Welcome to the Life School Masterclass Show, where 6 and 7-figure CEOs build their purpose-driven legacy businesses through proven branding, marketing, and sales strategies, so that they don't have to sacrifice their income and happiness for their mission. Thanks for watching the Life School Masterclass Show. Join our Facebook group community of badass mission-driven entrepreneurs, and come back next week, same place and time, for our upcoming show.